Take a look at this building in the Fayez Mansour area in Syria. It was the Iranian embassy that was attacked on April 1st. At least 13 people were killed. Among them were two high-ranking members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, Mohammad Reza Zahedi, a commander in the Quds force, and his deputy Mohammad Hadi. Zahedi was closely connected to the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Israel never admits carrying out such attacks, but everyone knows it was her doing. Iran then launched a volley of cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and more than 100 drones toward Israel on Saturday, April 13th, in an apparent response to the attack. This is the first time Iran has directly attacked Israel from Iranian territory. Before things got to this point, both nations used to be allies. Iran was one of the 11 members of the Special United Nations Committee that was formed in 1947 to devise a solution for Palestine after the British control of the territory ended.
The 55-nation Political and Security Committee of the United Nations hears Jewish and Arab representatives submit their views on the vital Palestine issue.
It was one of three to vote against the United Nations partition plan for Palestine, centered on concerns that it would escalate violence in the region for generations to come. But 2 years after Israel managed to capture more territory than the United Nations had approved following the start of the First Arab-Israeli War in 1948, Iran, then under Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, became the second Muslim-majority nation after Turkey to officially recognize Israel. Leading up to Israel's establishment in 1948, more than 700,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from their homes by Zionist militias. Palestinians call their forced displacement the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe. Things changed after Mohammad Mossadegh became Iran's prime minister in 1951 when he spearheaded the nationalization of the country's oil industry, which was monopolized by Britain. Mossadegh severed ties with Israel, which he saw as serving Western interests in the region. Things dramatically shifted when Mossadegh's government was overthrown in a coup organized by the intelligence services of the United Kingdom and the United States in 1953. The coup reinstated the Shah, who became a staunch ally of the West in the region. Israel established a de facto embassy in Tehran, and eventually the two exchanged ambassadors in the 1970s. Trade ties grew, and soon Iran became a major oil provider for Israel, with the two establishing a pipeline aimed at sending Iranian oil to Israel and then Europe. Tehran and Tel Aviv also had extensive military and security cooperation, but it was largely kept under wraps to avoid provoking the Arab nations in the region. In 1979, the Shah was overthrown in a revolution and a new Islamic Republic of Iran was born.
The Shah and his empress left shortly before midday. The empire he had hoped to build had been shattered by a year of violence.
The news spread with the speed of the human shout. Shah Farari Shodeh, the people cried, the Shah has escaped. The old chant of death to the Shah was replaced today by a new one, death to Carter. There is still a strong sentiment against American interests in Iran and the widespread belief that the United States has taken the profits from Iranian oil. Khomeini, Khomeini, they cried, we're waiting for you.
Khomeini was being helped down the steps of his chartered Air France jet to set foot on Iranian ground for the first time in 15 years.
Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the revolution, brought about a new worldview that predominantly championed Islam and argued for standing up to arrogant world powers and their regional allies who would oppress others, including Palestinians, to serve their own interests. Tehran cut off all ties with Israel. Citizens could no longer travel and flight routes were cancelled, and the Israeli embassy in Tehran was transformed into a Palestinian embassy. The enmity grew over the decades as both sides sought to cement and grow their power and influence across the region. Since then, Iran has evolved its strategy of utilizing militant groups for decades. Iran's Quds Force provided training, funding, and weapons assistance to various militant groups in the region, including Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Hamas has controlled the Gaza Strip since 2006. Its charter lays out a clear goal of destroying the state of Israel and establishing Islamic law. Worried that the Palestinian cause was not getting enough attention and determined to stop a deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia, Hamas launched a deadly attack against civilians on October 7, 2023, killing 1,200 Israelis, taking hundreds of hostages of many nationalities, and lightening a march in the Middle East. The resulting invasion of Gaza by Israel's military has left more than 30,000 Palestinians dead and one-fourth of the population facing starvation and famine. Enter Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed group, Shia Muslim organization based in Lebanon on Israel's northern border, whose name means Party of God. It came along in the early 1980s and grew into a full political party, now controlling parts of Lebanon. Like Hamas, Hezbollah relies on Iran for its funding. It has been branded a terrorist organization by the United States and other nations in the West. The day following Hamas's assault on Israel, Hezbollah fired rockets into the northern part of Israel. Meanwhile, menacing the seas are the Houthi rebels, known as Ansarullah, or supporters of God. They have a strong military presence in Yemen, and they also receive funding from Iran. The Houthis rose to prominence in 2014 during a civil war that left an immense humanitarian crisis in its wake. Despite Western attempts to rein in the Houthis, they continue to be a menace even against US aircraft carriers, attacking more than 14 ships in the last few months with their own sea drones, anti-ship ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicles, all loaded with explosives.